Hello, passengers, and welcome aboard the TV Pilot's License with service to Malibu and Hannah, Montana. We ask that you please fasten your headphones, secure your podcasting device, and remember that, yes, if you are wearing a wig to try to sneak into first class, we will switch you to a middle seat on Spirit Airlines.
Welcome to the TV Pilot's License. My name is Geoff Kerbis, joined by Max Singer. Max, how are you doing today?
That's a topical joke. Folks, for more Spirit Airlines humor, check out TV Pilot's License wherever you subscribe to your podcast.
Yeah, and you can check out our newly redesigned website. But Max, this week we are taking it back to the year of 2008 to talk a little bit more about Hannah, Montana. But before we do so, it appears that someone is knocking on the cabin door vigorously, swearing that they are in fact good friends with Hannah, Montana and just want to say hi, or at least shake our hands. Our guest this week is a comedian and TV writer who, if you are a game night fanatic, is releasing his first card game called Gay Chicken, which you can find later this year in a gaming store near you. Please welcome returning guest J.W. Crump. J.W., welcome to TVPL.
Welcome back, J.W.
Hello, boys. I'm so glad to finally be here for a show that I wasn't a fan of. I'm not saying the pilot yet. We'll save that. But I just mean the other 3 times I've been here, I was like an expert on the show.
Well, yeah, and we would literally...
And with this, I'm flying blind.
Yeah, we would literally quiz you about the show at the end of the episodes, being like, let's just see how...
That's actually the... JW, that was also the motto for Spirit Airlines. We're flying blind.
Oh my gosh. Well,
I'm so glad you picked that up, Max. I was setting up Jeff, and he was like, no thanks.
of the 3 people that are recording this podcast right now, I will very much admit that my improv skills are lackluster, as Max saw me fail to join his improv team twice. Now, before we dive too deep into Hannah, Montana, JW, we gave you a list of shows to choose from. We gave you a myriad of all sorts of different things. Why Hannah, Montana, I guess?
I think because I remember the 2 I was interested in from the list. I don't know if I can say the other one. I
can say the other one. We'll do it eventually.
Was Hannah Montana and Jury Duty, which are very different, although they are both about secrets.
I want to see the crossover. I want Hannah Montana in Jury Duty.
Ooh. See how many people are face blind on that show. That would be a very fun twist.
I think it was a nice excuse to finally watch something, especially with the anniversary that just came out. That just missed me. You know, I was a little too old for it when it came out, but also I realized I don't know nothing about this show. I've heard the songs.
Sure.
I think it's interesting that I have even 1 or 2 of the songs on like a gym playlist, right? Mm-hmm. So it's transcended the show in some ways, but I was like, I actually don't know anything except she's a normal girl who's also a pop star.
Because I'm with you on this, JW. I've never watched this show. This is something that was like a huge cultural blind spot for me. But I have heard Hoedown Throwdown in a Soul Cycle class in LA.
Yes!
And meanwhile, I'll just say that, like, to the surprise of our audience, because usually at the end of every episode, I'm just like, yeah, I've watched every single episode. Are you fucking kidding me? No, this is... Disney Channel is a blind spot for me from like 2006 onwards. Like, I never saw High School Musical. I've never watched one fully through, which like was interesting to be in high school in like 2004 through 2009 and have that be a cultural blind spot, especially being a theater kid at that time. So yeah, I
think in your 30s you would have a cultural appreciation for the choreography of Kenny Ortega in those films.
Well, before we dive too deep,
honestly,
gentlemen, into Hannah, Montana, a quick word from our sponsor.
Hey there, frequent flyers. This week's episode is brought to you by Riverside. Riverside has been the go-to platform for TV Pilot's License when it comes to recording this podcast. You can record crystal clear audio and video all in one place, and when you're done, Riverside makes it super easy to edit your show and put together pre-formatted clips for social media promotion. Not a podcaster? Not a problem. Riverside is fantastic for hosting live streams, creating educational content, putting together marketing materials, interviews, and so much more. So whether you're looking to finally get that podcast idea off the ground or take your show to the next level, Riverside is the platform for you. Get started by clicking the Riverside link in the description of today's episode.
And let's dive in to Hannah Montana, and we're going to start off with a quick synopsis. Adventures of a teenage pop star who keeps her identity secret from even her closest friends by using a disguise on stage, which, yes, that is definitely what we in fact watched. But Max, can you tell JW and myself and our audience a little bit more about how the show got made?
Today we are talking about the pilot episode of Hannah Montana titled Lily, Do You Want to Know a Secret?, which originally aired on March 24th, 2006 on Disney, and a trio of creators today in Michael Porteous, Richard Correll, and Barry O'Brien. In the early 2000s, Disney saw success with a series of teen shows all featuring musical elements and subsequent record releases, the Cheetah Girls and Lizzie McGuire being the two major examples of music crossover, while the network also had hits in shows such as Even Stevens and That's So Raven around this time. Porteous was the co-creator of That's So Raven, while Correll and Bryan have a long lineage as writers and directors with family-focused entertainment throughout the 80s and 90s. O'Brien originally conceived the idea for the series after seeing the success of Britney Spears' appearance on All That, and wondering about a regular teenager attempting to moonlight as the world's biggest pop star. The show was pitched to Disney where it was cast contingent, meaning the network would only proceed with the show based on who they could book into leading roles. Casting began in 2004, with over 1,000 actors considered for the titular role. At her first audition, Miley Cyrus was just 11 years old and originally not considered by execs due to her age and lack of professional experience. After an exhaustive 6 months of auditions with no lead cast, Cyrus was invited back again. After his daughter's casting, Billy Ray Cyrus was invited to audition and was cast as her father. While originally considered for the 2004-2005 season at Disney, the show was eventually picked up in August 2005 and began production with a 20-episode order. Within weeks of its debut, a full accompanying soundtrack was announced to be released later that year. The show was filmed in front of a live studio audience at Sunset Bronson Studios in Los Angeles on Thursdays and Fridays each week. Today's pilot is directed by the acclaimed sitcom director Lee Shamel, a 3-time Primetime Emmy nominee for her work on Murphy Brown, The Nanny, and Mad About You. And normally we would just get into the episode. I have to pause here for a second because to get someone like Lee Shamel to work with your green leading lady in Miley Cyrus feels like such a strong coaching opportunity and an investment in that performer. It's you've worked with Helen Hunt, Candice Bergen, Fran Drescher. She also did a lot of Gilmore Girls, Alexis Bledel, Lauren Graham. You have someone who has worked with all of these strong women-led sitcoms, and you're bringing her into this world to really give a POV to this young actress who has, I feel like strong comic timing. This will get into that as well, but it does feel like Disney invested in this, not just in terms of its budget and design, but in terms of who they brought on to give credit to it.
Yeah, I mean, JW, I'm curious for you, but seeing that level of investment for a kid show, nonetheless, a cable kid show, seems like such a big swing that we're not used to. And I'm curious, before we dive too deep into Miley's performance as both Hannah and Miley, what you think of when you hear something like that as an investment detail.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating because I think I know just a little bit more about Nickelodeon sitcoms because I've watched a decent amount of episodes of iCarly because I actually think Miranda Cosgrove is a super underrated comedic actor and singer. And I've watched some episodes of Victorious, especially when that Quentin Reviews super long YouTube docu special thing that he did, retrospective, came out. And it's interesting that they always are clearly trying to make the lead, especially when it's a young lady, into a pop star.
Sure.
It can't just be that she's going to be the lead of a sitcom. She also has to be marketable as a merchandising machine and selling albums and selling concerts and doing all that. And it's interesting to me that Miley Cyrus got the role and then Billy Ray Cyrus got to audition to potentially be the father. Because in my brain, I had constructed a narrative where it was a vanity project for him and he was trying to sell like, I'm a big deal. People know my name. My daughter's very talented. I'm going to sell the idea of this show. I'll play the father so I can be there to help her be a better actor.
Yeah. So
to find out it was kind of the opposite is really fascinating.
I'm going to add one little other additional detail in here of one of the reasons in Max, you said that Miley was very young and appeared very young when she originally auditioned. She had a growth spurt in between the first audition and the second audition where she was asked back. But the part that I find so funny...
So she Hannah Montana them.
Exactly.
She came back as a new person.
And they were like, oh, who is this new human?
She's like a high school basketball prospect. She's too small, and now all of a sudden she's 6'11".
This is the Michael Jordan of Disney Channel shows. But I want to ask you two if you have any idea who the other leading candidate was for Hannah Montana before they chose Miley Cyrus, because it is someone who is still very relevant in today's pop culture as it is and went from TV into music.
Oh, goodness. TV, Selena Gomez?
That's a good...
I was about to say it's not like a Victoria Justice, just someone else who got into a sitcom, right?
Taylor Momsen from Gossip Girl was the other choice for Hannah Montana, and Miley Cyrus...
Not Sydney Lou Who.
Yeah, Sydney Lou Who. And then, it's not like... Here's the funny part. It's not like Taylor Momsen...
That's so random.
Yeah, it's not like she had no career afterwards. She went on to have an extremely successful TV career and then went on to now be... like rocking it and doing tours around the country all the time. Like it's incredible who they ended up having for this. But let's dive in a little bit more into the show and into the premise of just opening up with, we're in a concert, we're seeing Hannah Montana in her prime in this soundstage, rocking out in front of an audience of 30 people, but it's supposed to be hundreds of a sold-out show. And JW, you already have thoughts.
Okay, so I read something, and I don't know if the two of you looked this up. I was looking up, like, IMDb facts about just this episode. Sure. And it says that this was just a concert that they put on, but all the attendees didn't know who the performer was.
So
that's how they got all this concert footage.
It's like when I go to the mall and someone's singing at the mall and I'm just like, oh, I guess that's nice. But like Disney said, hey, you have to sign this waiver for us.
Well, or maybe there was just a sign that says, if you're at this concert, you might be filmed. End of journey.
I mean, if I imagine being
because
in
the
history.
Footage of the concert is very different. It is very grainy in a way the rest of the show is not necessarily.
And also the primary concert footage, like the principal photography compared to the B-roll of any concert in this show, makes me chuckle so hard because all of the B-roll exterior shots are of arenas, like she's playing basketball arenas, and then it's the interior of Sunset Bronson where they film like jury shows for daytime syndication and John Mulaney's Everybody's Live in LA. Like it's always such an intimate thing for what's supposed to be a massive arena concert.
Well, I mean, one of the things that's on my mind with this is JW, we talked about Gem and the Holograms when we had you on one time, and that show has such iconic music associated with it, right? And this show, very similar. I mean, what did you think of not only the title track, that the intro song to the show, but just the music in general that we were privy to when we watched this pilot?
Yeah, I think the smartest thing you can do when you create a show like this is to make songs, and again, Jim and the Holograms did this, where the song outside of the show still makes sense as a pop song. Yeah. And that's why you hear it in your spin classes still, and there's still people covering them, and there's still people doing whatever, because like they've done these songs on Drag Race for the lip syncs. You know what I mean? Like The Best of Both Worlds, See You Again, they can all just be songs that exist outside of the show. And then what's smart is now that, and I guess they couldn't have predicted this, but now that Miley Cyrus is a musical artist, you're just like, oh, these are Miley Cyrus songs.
Yeah.
And so the Hannah Montana thing almost goes away at some point in the real world.
Max, I want you to bring yourself back to you're 17 years old. This this new show is on the Disney Channel that maybe people are talking about, maybe people aren't talking about near and around you. are these bangers, or maybe has this influenced you at all in like some of your current listenings and like some of the pop music you're listening to?
These definitely are pop rock bangers, and Disney excelled at this around this time. And we've talked about this in shows that have another performance element where like you have to not only write a good show, but you have to write a good accompanying artistic piece. Like if you do a show about a band, the songs have to be good. If you do a show like a thing about like poets, the poetry has to be good, the stand-up has to be good, the football game has to be filmed well. And Disney just does this better than anyone in the early mid-aughts. I'm thinking about the music from Freaky Friday, with the Lindsay Lohan, Jamie Lee Curtis version, because the fictional band did that. Pink Slip writes absolute bangers with Take Me Away and then the credit song of Ultimate, and like Ultimate became a crossover hit again for Lindsay Lohan, where it's like, okay, we can take this thing that's the Pink Slip song and we could put it on the radio as Lindsay Lohan and get that crossover appeal. And that's another one where those songs still have staying power.
Oh yeah,
Lemonade Mouth has great music.
It has.
Like I remember I was hearing a song like in a CVS or something, and I was like, "That's from Lemonade Mouth. Why are they playing?"
When I saw Muna on tour, they covered Take Me Away by Pink Slip. Like 20 plus years later, they were covering songs from Freaky Friday. And like you said, JW, with the Hannah Montana songs, this period just has a cultural staying power. And it's amazing that they were able to cast them with people who had star power, write songs that had staying power, and create these programs that still 2 decades later feel like they are part of like the pop culture canon.
Well, yeah, and like, you know, we all watched this week, and I think for most of us, if not all of us, it was our first time watching Hannah Montana and this episode primarily. And
first minute had literally realized I'd never seen any of this show.
But the funny thing to me, for both of you, is like I'm watching this and I'm thinking how relevant it sort of is in our current landscape with the new genre and the new wave of pop music that we're dealing with right now. Dealing with is a strong phrase that we get.
We're suffering through. We hear you.
Yeah,
we hear
I miss my pop music. No, I mean, like there's
Geoff hates Zara Larson in a way that I've never heard a man hate Zara Larson.
Literally, I was going to say because we have in our run of show right now, what's the pop music you're currently listening to? And I was going to say Zara Larson is literally on my playlist for the gym right now as we speak. I am listening to that all the fucking time. And
no one is more excited for the Girls Trip remix album.
You know what? Let me thrive. It's that, and then Pablo Torre finds out. Going back to back, it is a wild swing. But I'm curious: is there pop music that you guys are listening to right now that maybe you thought a little bit about those artists when you're watching something like this?
I mean, for me, I am going to absolutely play into the ground another Disney Channel TV star to pop star pipeline. Olivia Rodrigo's current single, Drop Dead. I have just been on loop with that. And then I also got a lot of mileage last year out of the solo record from Jade from Little Mix. That's Showbiz Baby. Most because I like to say the album, but that's some real fun, like club pop. That gets me moving.
JW.
This is very different, but I love Liz Gillies or Elizabeth Gillies. She seems like she goes by both, and she was in Victorious and then in Dynasty, and you know, I think she's a well-known enough name. She has such a good kind of jazz voice, and she did this like duets album with Family Guy's creator. What's his name? Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah, they're like standards album. Yeah,
and I'm like, this is excellent. It's like. All of these shows are fascinating to me because because you said she was like 11 or 12 when she did this show, right?
Yeah, she was very young.
And I kind of didn't realize how young she was because I'll say that the songs sound like something more of like a 15 or 16-year-old voice. Like she had a more mature voice than I think her actual age lended to. And it was just kind of fascinating because in my head I was like, oh, they're in high school, she's probably 16 when this show starts, and then she ages out by the time she's 18 or 19, and then they move on to know that she was that young and actually making these songs is really fascinating.
We could also I could talk for like a full ass hour about the idea of what they did to Britney Spears and making her sing in a higher register than her actual voice, and how that probably caused a lot of vocal damage to her, and her entire career was probably set back by that. But they let Miley sing. They let Hannah Montana sing. And JW, you made a little revelation to us earlier that I want to dive into. And that's that you did not know the premise of Hannah Montana being this secret, this double life almost.
Well, I knew that her whole thing, the only thing I knew was that she was a teenage pop star.
Great.
And like, I understood that Hannah Montana was the stage persona, and that I assumed she also was like going to high school. I guess I just didn't realize that what the whole pilot's about is that this is a secret. I gotta be normal. People will treat me differently. And it's just fascinating that was the premise. Because that also seems like the premise of... Because at some point I remember I watched like an episode or two of Wizards of Waverly Place, and that's the whole premise, is they're wizards and Selena Gomez can't tell her best friend. And Disney Channel loved a secret show. Like, ooh, wouldn't it be fun if you were a kid with a secret? Shush. Like,
Max,
and I'm just like, why is secrets the things we need all of our teen kids to have?
Max, for you, I guess I'm curious, because we always talk about on this show, like, why is today different than any other day? And this show has this big, overwhelming secret, right? That I believe our character, based off the pilot and the pilot alone, is going to be dealing with it throughout the tenure of this show. But there's a lot of other choices here that we could go with, like sold out concert, or best friend potentially finds out what your secret identity is in a weird powerless Superman sort of phase. Like, what are you thinking about today's Why is Today Different?
I think it's something in the vein of that latter one there, Jeff. I think it's this idea that Miley Stewart, played by Miley Cyrus, has to confront this secret life head on, and that her best friend has invited her to the sold out Hannah Montana concert, wants Miley to come, and she's having to make up all these excuses as to why she can't. And it's the ticking clock of, I am not going to be able to keep this up much longer, and what am I going to do? And I think that is an interesting Why is Today Different for a YA type show. This idea of, at some point I have to come clean, not to quote another Disney Channel pop star, but I have to address this issue head on. I have to be honest with myself. I have to be honest with my friends. Like, I have to allow people in. I can't put up these walls. And so it feels like it's a very silly caper in all of the lengths she's going to go to hide this, that also has this kind of like morality play angle of, at some point I have to learn to be honest.
Absolutely. Well, we've been dancing around talking about this show a little bit in depth, or talking about the substance of this show.
Yeah, because let's be clear, this pilot is bad. This is real rough. This was a rough watch, and I was the one who brought Nick Arcade to y'all. I was like,
well, JW, you say that, but I want to dive into one of the things that we're talking about when we're talking about a Disney show is a majority, if not 95% of the show is going to be riding on the ability of these child actors for the most part. And Max, you talked about this acting coach being brought in to help Miley Cyrus like get up to snuff on her comedic timing. I want to start off though with the two adults in the room that were in this show, in talking a little bit more about Billy Ray Cyrus being in this show, and Oliver or is it Oliver Oaken who plays the brother in this? The Max, her
40-year-old brother.
Jackson Earl is the older brother, Jackson Stewart. The other adult in the room is Fermine, played by Matt Winston, her costume designer.
But like, let's just talk about these three fully grown-ass men being in this pilot, and the varying abilities of acting from Billy Ray Cyrus to Martin Shore in the Father of the Bride impression. I mean, the show is What are we talking about, JW? You already pounced on the acting, but I want to dive into it more.
I want to talk about Fermin because I am obsessed with a character that even having not seen another episode, I was like, this is a pilot-only character. Because he's clearly set up. He's clearly set up to be recurring.
Sure.
Like, he's clearly meant to be something. And I was shocked at both how gay they let him be and also how no one seemed to have that big of a problem with it. If anything, it kind of seemed like him and the dad were flirting throughout the entire thing in a really healthy manner. And I was like, what are we doing?
Yeah, a surprisingly flamboyant character for the second Bush administration.
Yeah,
I was about to say Obama,
because he's not little lowercase g gay.
No,
he's the F slur, which I won't say on your show, but I would have permission to say it. And he's the first thing you hear,
like
after the concert. It's him.
I'm doing the math in my head of when this show came out, and like Obama literally had just been at the DNC and said like, "Hey, I still don't really believe in gay marriage at this point in time," but we were like, "But we can say the word gay and it not like shudder when someone says that person is gay." Like, it is very interesting, especially Disney Channel now, as we look at some of the choices and decision making they're doing as it is in. It's been 20 plus years since the show has come out that we're like, oh, wow, that was really progressive. And it doesn't even feel that progressive right now. But JW, I've been dying to ask you, what do you think of Billy Ray Cyrus's acting in this show? From the moment I watched this pilot, I was like just in big notes, JW and Billy Ray.
I think you can really very easily power rank the main 6 people in the show. And I think that Billy Ray is second from the bottom in terms of acting ability.
Who is last in your mind then?
Miley Cyrus is awful. Miley Cyrus is painful. And I felt so bad for Emily Osment, who is the best actor in the show.
Oh,
she has comedic timing. She has a million things to do. She has all the big stunts, that seemed like she was really doing. And every scene with the two of her is one person having a very honest character moment and then another person shouting. And I couldn't get over it.
Max.
Yeah, Lily of Emily Osment like runs the gambit for sure of like, she does physical comedy. She's climbing on the set pieces. She's hanging from chandeliers and dangling through windows. She has to have these like slow, drawn out, like very multicam sitcom moments. And I'm not going to lie, guys, I actually got Hannah Montana when Billy Ray Cyrus was wearing the fake mustache
Shut
and
the
wig
fuck
as a
up. No, you
security
did
guard.
not. You did
because I was like, this is so weird. There's just a security guard with this giant mustache, and when he took it off, I was like, oh, it's Robbie Ray Stewart. And I'm not even shitting you guys. I did not realize that was Billy Ray.
JW, I've known Max for 16 years. It is this moment in time I learned he did not have object permanence or like he had slight facial blindness.
Well, let me back up Max, though. It is a very specifically interesting writing point that they were like, but also her dad has to hide his identity as well because he can't be around because then people will figure it out. I'm like, that's actually something they probably had to realize while writing the pilot. We're also trapping this man in a double
They realized
life.
it while filming the pilot, and all they could do was get him that giant mustache from a different soundstage.
Yeah, the other part that's a little bit of a gap in this, if we want to talk about wait a minute, it's a little bit early, is Miley has to hide her identity. Her dad, Robbie, has to hide his identity. But Jackson, fuck all. He's just hanging out. He's bringing girls to the dressing room. He's like, let me introduce you to Hannah Montana because I know her personally. We're close friends in this instance.
Jackson Stewart in his bright yellow American Eagle polo in 2006 swoop. That is the most mid-aughts teenage boy I have ever seen in my life.
Do we want to...
And we put teenage boy in heavy finger quotes because that man is 82 years old. He's the oldest. Why is he so much older than Miley Cyrus?
But the thing that I find interesting about him being older is of our better acting in this pilot, I would actually give Jackson Earls some credit, but also I give him the slight like demotion of the idea that he's in a kid show acting circles around someone who's never acted on TV before, and Billy Ray Cyrus. But like there are moments in this show where I'm giggling because of some of the deliveries that Jackson Earls gives.
He's very funny. He was my second favorite in terms of like the comedic ability of the actors. But again, I gave Emily Osment the boost because she was a young
she's a child
teen doing this. And
I will say when I first heard her speak, I was like, is that JoJo Siwa? She was way too young to be on this show. Like I just heard, hi you guys, and I was like, oh my God, I forgot that like yes, this is a child, and we do go through vocal changes. We all had that voice at one point.
It was very comforting, speaking of voices, it was very comforting as someone from North Carolina to hear a range of what people thought acceptable Southern accents were. Because I think genuinely most people had a natural Southern accent, but you could tell the casting was like, but whatever state's fine. It's all just... It's general.
We don't need to know
Southern.
Where she's from. She's just here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we want to talk a little bit about this middle school that I feel like Miley Stewart is being really just like taken to for punishment of sorts? Because Max, boy, are these middle schoolers just ferocious. But there are some familiar faces that we see along the way. What do you think about that?
I mean, first off, as someone who grew up in New England, anytime I see California outdoor schools, it always takes me back a little bit, and like realizing their entire cafeteria is outside always catches me off guard. We're talking about Corbin Bleu of High School Musical fame. Not that you would know that, Geoff, but there is such a hellscape to this middle school, from the embarrassment of meeting your crush to the awkward teenage boy of Oliver to the mean girls. And there's just such... I felt so tense watching this. And I think if this show does anything well, it's that it creates a sense of, like, it can be tough just to be a teen. Like, it leans into that element a lot. And it plays a lot into teenage friendship dynamics and, like, the highs and lows that you go through with a best friend. And I think that it does a really good job of running the gambit of not just being about the shiny object, but actually getting into how difficult 14 is for so many people.
JW, did you like the Islands of the Fly, or Lord of the Flies nature of this
Islands of the Fly.
Islands of the Stream nature of this?
I appreciate that the school is just a cafeteria.
Yes.
It's just, they are having lunch all day, every day. I also, Corbin Bleu, I'm a fan of his generally. Like, sure. I watched the High School Musicals. He seems like a really talented, cool person. But he also, again, looked so much older that I was like, oh, is he supposed to be like a senior and they're freshmen? But then I did appreciate that he's actually just a dorky guy,
sure.
too. I appreciate it from a writing standpoint that they actually did make him like, ooh, Miley's gross, but I love Hannah, which seemed to be like what I think a lesser show would have done. Mm-hmm. And I gotta say, I think two of the funniest people were those mean girls.
Oh, they were
wonderful.
Were great.
They had the chemistry that I wanted Emily Osment and Miley Cyrus to have.
They're doing like a whole little like Stadler and Waldorf act with each other. It's delightful.
They're full vaudeville in the background. They've got a catchphrase. They've got a hand signal that they do to each other.
Ladies
like, where's
who lunch.
This?
Those two girls are 3 martinis deep in their outdoor cafeteria, just talking shit about anyone who crosses their path.
And it's so interesting when you have that dynamic where you have that strong acting partnership going, and then you have Emily Osment dragging Miley Cyrus across the finish line to try to keep that same sort of chemistry going. It seems throughout this pilot as well. Like, was that almost distracting to you too at all?
Oh, yeah, let me tell you. I mean, that's my biggest... I won't harp on it too much longer because it'll become not funny and seem mean-spirited because I like Miley Cyrus. It's very clear. They surrounded her with her father to help make her more comfortable and a ton of very talented sitcom actors to help the whole show. And I bet if I watched a later episode, which I don't predict myself doing, but if I ever do, I bet she got better.
Oh, for sure.
But this is a rough sell. And I think Miley's actually at her best when she's doing the more serious scenes, when she's down in the dumps about stuff. And the comedy stuff, which is a lot of what the cafeteria stuff, is challenging.
Max, for a pilot specifically, where there is some very, as JW even mentioned, the end of this pilot really relies on some more serious acting of you've been lying to your best friend for a while. You feel like you have a situation where they're not recognizing you for you as you reveal this big secret to them. What are your thoughts about sort of this, like, forcing this big acting at the end and how they deal with this as a pilot of this thing that was eventually going to come up, but they said, fuck it, we're doing it in the pilot of this kid's show?
I was very impressed, and this I think comes from people who have just a lot of veteran TV experience, to create a true all is lost moment that is centered around like the real emotional teenage stakes of the show, and not an all is lost moment about the glitzy Hannah Montana side of it. 'Cause I think it grounds the show. I think it gives it a good emotional depth. I think it tells you that while Hannah Montana is the fun, shiny object, this is about Miley Stewart. And honestly, yeah, I would agree with you, JW. I think that pilot Miley Cyrus is at her best when she gets to play the grounded 14-year-old version of herself and isn't trying to keep up with the physical comedy and the gags of some of her castmates. Because this, like a lot of YA shows, revolves a lot around pratfalls and food jokes. And some of her cast is a little bit more adept at that at this stage in their careers than her, but she can play the reality of it, I think, pretty well. And I'm glad that when this show gets at its wackiest, it finds a way to make it about like teenage dynamics and teenage life and brings it back to its roots.
Well, we do find a resolution at the end of this pilot. We do come to the agreement of Miley is Miley first and Hannah Montana second, in the eyes of her best friend. And we get another little Lord of the Flies instance with all about a scarf at the end. And JW, you feel like...
Well, I feel like we've flown by so much stuff, and I really want to talk about why the sitcom felt the need to include womanizing teen boy as one of the friendship group. Because I will say, he has the most complicated acting thing to do, because he gets introduced and he has to walk through a scene in like one take and do a ton of physical stuff and interactions with other actors. And then he sits down and I was like, oh, this is going to be like an antagonist character. The girls are going to hate him and he's like obsessed with Hannah Montana. Oh, that's interesting. And then he's just there and he sat with them and I was like, oh, so he's their friend?
This is your friend.
Why? Why are they friends with him? He's just a pervert. Whoa, why is he? It feels like just a reason. It feels like he was inserted just to have one character that still didn't know the mystery.
Yeah.
Because otherwise what happens is by the end of this pilot, every single main character knows.
Yeah, it's definitely also to give that character, they give us the little, moment of him saying, I just want to brush her hair, which is, one, creepy. But then also saying, that joke was so funny, we have to bring it back just to say he fully fucking meant he wanted to just brush her hair when he happens to come into meeting this Hannah Montana character out in the wild. I mean, Max, what are your thoughts about Mitchell Musso as Oliver Oaken in this instance?
I'm troubled. I'm really troubled by this. Yeah, it's a very problematic teenage boy character who has a strange parasocial on the border of creepy relationship with this pop star. And the only thing that I feel like you get out of Oliver is that you create a low status character who you can punch down on enough that it makes Miley Stewart standing up for him at the end feel like some sort of like moral victory, where I also don't know if this character, to the extent that he is used, is needed, because the relationship there is Miley and Lily, and it's them against the other two girls. And I don't necessarily know if you need to throw in this like absolute screwball goober of a character in your pilot if he adds to like the world you're building.
Well,
I just needed one line that established why the three of them were best friends.
just like
I just needed like we've been friends since kindergarten. He's my neighbor. Like I needed something to help establish
his house has
why
the best snacks.
Yeah, like anything that made it make sense, because like his resolution is also that she throws a towel at him, he falls out a window, and then he's holding the towel with him at school the next day to show off like Hannah Montana's sweat rag. It's so
okay,
weird.
Linus.
Yeah, and also I agree with the mean girls who are like, that could be any towel. I agree. It's just a purple towel.
I could have bought that towel at Bed Bath & Beyond. What are you talking about? That's I got it for 20% off because my mom also got those discount coupons that were expired. I mean, I do want to bring it to things that I loved about this pilot, and there's two that I have written down. But I want to talk about the first one, which is Miley's. I did have a ooh moment, and it wasn't a good ooh, but it was a funny one where I saw Miley's closet for Hannah Montana, and I just have it written down as the Claire's CEO is currently having an involuntary orgasm looking at this closet and imagining what he could do in his stores. It was so fun. And like, I don't know if you guys thought it was fun at the same time, or maybe just a little cheesy, but it just seemed like such a kid's show.
I'm kind of obsessed with how many movies and TV shows are like, you know what teens want? Closets.
Yes.
Huge closets, right? Like the most famous one of all time is the Clueless closet, right? With the touch screen and everything that's still technologically ahead of what we can create now. I do think it's funny. When Lily's character first comes in, her thing is like, well, I can take this stuff.
Yes.
These shoes are mine. What shoe size are you? Oh, I'm basically that. I'll also take this. I'm like, she's not giving you the stuff. She's saying, I'm proving I'm Hannah Montana to you.
Max, what did you like the closet? Was there were you feeling like this is the closet of your dreams, or maybe was it Sex and the City, the movie, the first one?
I mean, my big takeaway is we need fewer influencers and more interior decorators. Like, we need people to design these closets in real life. It's such a fun thing, though, because the whole thing for like the first two acts, I guess like this is the end of Act 2 with the All Is Lost. The idea of Miley's trying to downplay all of this so much, like I am Miley Stewart, regular 14-year-old girl, and then we finally get this like extravagant touch of like, this is the Hannah Montana closet. I think it's really fun. I think it also lends itself to, we're going to get more little like crumb drops of like where the Hannah stuff bleeds into her life and what that's going to look like. It's fun. It's over the top. It's opulent. It's a really cute touch in this pilot. I enjoyed it. It's a very nice closet.
It also contained my favorite actual part that I laughed at, which is when they're getting serious. Lily's character's on this spinning
on like
the piece, and she's still spinning, and Miley's so distraught that she's not going to stop the spinning, and Emily Osment's character Lily doesn't know how to stop it spinning, so they're just both sad, and she's just still slowly spinning
just
around.
Stuck
I was
on
like,
a revolve,
that's
yes.
actually really funny.
There were definitely, and I'd love to introduce the two of you to bring your wait a minute, or things that you loved about this pilot. Were there things that you wanted to bring a little bit more shine to, whether it was some of the hidden gem jokes, JW, or maybe something else like the joke that I have written down, which is a little blue sequin number. And that moment to me was just very, very funny and a great little payoff from Jackson Stewart. But I'm curious about you two. What did you love about this pilot?
I mean, for me, I have two Hannah Montana specific moments. One, the two songs we hear in this is The Life and Best of Both Worlds, the theme song, I think are both great, well-constructed
the
pop
theme
rock
song's
songs.
a banger, especially.
The
Yeah,
awesome.
it's a really strong theme song. And if that's going to be your single for this musical TV series, you knocked it out of the park. That's really good. I also think of a shout out to Hannah Montana's tour writer for the May-December level of hot dogs that are in her dressing room. There is a comical number. There is a tray with dozens upon dozens of hot dogs on it. And it is such a funny visual sight that, yeah, if I was 14 and an international pop singer, I probably would also say you need to have 3 dozen hot dogs in my dressing room. That was a very relatable moment. It's a really delightful visual to see.
I have 2 and like a half because one's just a quick thing. But I will say, positive, real serious positive. We mentioned it earlier, but I'm pleasantly surprised how not homophobic and transphobic, even though we had a gay character and we had Jackson in feminine presenting clothing, none of the jokes were actually anti cross-dressing,
not at all,
anti-gay people. Like, it was always done with a very kind wink. Like him just saying, I just was going to say, I don't think the shoes match. Like, that's sweet. I was like, well, that was pretty progressive, because I feel like those shows are always like, oh boy. And it was actually, the joke was more that he was wearing his sister stuff, not that he was wearing girl stuff. And I felt that was like actually pretty progressive for this show. I also genuinely loved, because I had heard that she just wore a wig on stage.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize it was all this huge secret, but they actually made it a point to say, no, it's also makeup and sunglasses. Mm-hmm. She's actually doing several things. And so she puts a pie in her face because she's like, oh, Lily will recognize me. She's my best friend. I have to completely cover my face. And I thought that was actually smart to say it's not just putting on a blonde wig. It's like a full glam, and also sunglasses that she exclusively was seen wearing on stage. And I will say the one, and because this is so weird, it doesn't go commented on. The character doesn't even have a line. Jackson's date for the concert is so much taller than him. And it goes uncommented on. He just walks in. She's a foot taller. You would think that would be some sort of
a joke of something,
joke
yeah,
or something. And they just leave. And I was like, was that to make him seem younger? Because the actor's 40? Or was it because they were just like, wouldn't it be kind of funny if she was like, she was a taller person? And I kind of love weirdness like that in my kids' sitcom, where someone was like, it'll be funny if she's just really tall.
That sort of leads me into my wait a minute moment on this pilot, which is like, sure, age is age, and we can talk about that. We can talk about the joke of like, hey, my name is Geoff, here are my hands, and I can play 18 and above sort of thing as a 35-year-old man. But like, why this man? I'm sure there were plenty of people that probably auditioned that were 18 or 19, where you didn't have to worry about their hours in a studio, their hours filming, or any of that fun stuff. But it just seems like it almost got distracting for me at a moment where I was just like, this person is so much older than the girl that he is trying to hook up with or like date in this instance, that I'm just like, what's going on here? I can't suspend my disbelief at all in this moment.
Do you know how old Jason Earls is today?
I'm going to do some math. So it's just the 20th anniversary recently, right? I'm going to say
64.
I was going to
weirdly not that far off.
I was going to say 56.
He's 49.
Oh,
which is still
that's
significantly older than the other.
So to be
his sister character,
18 years older than Miley Cyrus was, like give or take a year or so, and then not to mention at that time we're talking about like he's closer in age to Billy Ray Cyrus than he is to Miley Cyrus.
I will say I found it interesting, and maybe I just missed it. They don't show him in the school setting, which I feel like they would have done if they wanted to establish that he was also going to the same school and had to keep the secret, which you would kind of think the sitcom would want to do. But so in my head, when I first saw the character, I was like, oh, he's meant to be like 25. He's meant to be a loser brother.
Well, they would go to
who still
different
lives at
schools
home.
because the establishing shot for Miley's school is middle school. So he would be in high school and she would still be in middle school.
It's very Steve Buscemi,
Yeah.
hello, fellow kids, like coded if he was just walking through the halls of that middle school. Like even as we said, Corbin Blue looked older in those.
He looked like a high
Yeah, he looked
schooler.
like a high schooler in those shots. I'd love to hear from the two of you. Were there any moments that caused you pause in this pilot? Maybe something we didn't discuss that you were like, holy shit, we need to talk about that in more depth. JW, you vigorously nodded your head yes, so I want to give you the
I
shot.
just feel like that's all I've said the entire time is like it's so much WTF stuff the entire time. I was very confused at the, I'm going to say, whipped cream bit that they did because, you know, classic father and son thing. They were making choose your own ice cream sundaes with whipped cream. The entire thing, Jackson kind of has a B plot of wanting to borrow money from the dad, and he just keeps saying no. There's no resolution to that. He just does it for a while and then it's done. And then one time he sprays whipped cream in the son's mouth to shut him up, and I was like, I don't know, guys. I just feel like you didn't have to have the ice cream and the whipped cream there. This was a joke you created for yourself. You could have done something else because, again, it's just odd because they're the same age. So
They're so close in age.
something about it comes across a little flirty in a way that I wasn't comfortable with.
Max, what about yourself?
So my wait a minute moment's actually the exact same scene that JW's describing.
It's a
which
weird
is
scene.
When it's a weird scene. A lot happens. And it's Billy Ray as his character of Robbie Ray Stewart sings a little ditty to Miley, and she says, "That's the worst song you've ever written," which, is that an achy breaky heart joke? Is that a dig
Yeah.
at Billy Ray Cyrus's
Yeah.
career? Okay. Yeah, because I was like,
That's how I
I'm
took
pretty
it.
sure I'm pretty sure that's a joke for the parents who are watching this. It's like, oh, hold on, wait a minute there.
That's Billy Ray Cyrus. Like, you got a achy breaky heart. You got to respect it a little bit.
Can I point out another good writing thing that I actually appreciated? So really early on, the father says, "Lily alert," and everyone quickly changes up stuff because Lily's coming over and she doesn't know the secret yet. And I really liked at the end after the fight when Lily came over to reconcile, although I have a problem right afterwards. But when she came over and he very solemnly and seriously said "Lily alert" to her, I was like, that's a nice callback, and you changed the meaning of that in that's a nice writing.
With the skateboard just
line.
sliding in with her not on it.
That was funny,
I was
yeah.
giggling about that. Like, it was great.
But I'll say the apology scene, and I would love to get y'all's take on it. I felt like it was realistic in a way of like how a young teen would apologize, but basically her apology was like, "It's gonna take me a while to get used to it," and then they're like, "Yeah, that's real," and that's the apology. It's like, "But you know, I'll never tell people," and I'm like, "No, you just told her you absolutely would."
Yeah, no, they're definitely. My trust in Lily as a friend is at an all-time low in this moment in time.
Shake.
And I'm not going to be like, yeah, 100%, like you're going to be around all the time. It might be like, we need to do some this is not me saying have tests for your friends, but like we might need to do some practice of like, all right, so I'm talking about Hannah Montana and you say, not, "Oh, Miley, you're so good as her." You say, "Oh, I love her music," or something like that. We need a little bit more.
Because Lily certainly didn't mind bringing the Hannah Montana scarf in her book bag to school the next day.
Yeah, like,
So it feels trepidatious whether or not she's going to keep this secret.
well, gentlemen, we do have one more question, and this is an in-flight question. Our in-flight question this week comes to us from Lauren, frequent flyer on Instagram, and Lauren asked, "Have you ever been Hannah Montana?" That is with an apostrophe D, in case our audience did not hear that.
Oh, Hannah Montana.
Hannah Montana. And she clarified, someone changed a small part of their appearance and you didn't recognize them. So I'm curious,
I
gentlemen.
mean, I've already established this happened to people watching this episode.
Yeah, but I mean more so in a real life perspective. Maybe you haven't seen someone in a little bit of time. I always thought it was funny in high school where like, yeah, a summer passes in high school and someone looks like an entirely different person because that is just going through puberty. But do you have another situation that you remember or that's top of mind where you were confused and didn't realize the person in front of you was someone you knew?
I did it one time inadvertently because I had because glasses really do it for a lot
Sure.
of people. I feel like glasses is a very strong way to like make you less recognizable. I had glasses since second grade, and then I also had braces, and I had this one day where I had coincidentally an appointment to both get my braces off and
Get contacts?
get
Oh
contact
my God.
lenses for the first time. And I was basically just going to miss the first full half of school for these things. And I did that. And I also decided, because at that point I drove, I was like, you know what? I'm also going to go somewhere and dye my hair and cut it all off. And so I dyed my hair like that gross platinum yellow blonde.
You went
not platinum,
You went
truly
full
yellow
Born
blonde.
Identity. You were just like, I can't be found by the
it was
government.
kind of a little Eminem-ish, honestly. And I came back to school, and people literally didn't talk to me. People did not recognize me. Friends did not say hello. And I was like, wow, that is fascinating. And look, those are three kind of major changes.
for sure.
But even still, like, I was wearing the same clothes that you would maybe recognize me for. I wasn't, and I was like, wow, you can change a lot with your appearance, and people will just fully not recognize you.
Max, I'm curious. Do you have a moment?
So not for me specifically, but I am going to give a shout out to my toddler daughter and her relationship with fellow TVPL pilot Rich Inman. They get along very well. She likes Rich a whole lot. She's very friendly. He can hold her. They can play together. And Rich shaved his beard and didn't wear glasses for Halloween. And he came into our home, and my daughter started crying. And then Rich put on his glasses, and she was immediately enamored with him and went right over to him. And it was the removal of glasses and the shaving of a beard that gave her 100% stranger danger. And the second he put any of those accessories back on, she instantly knew who it was again. It was a complete night and day. I understand the Superman Clark Kent thing now. The object permanence
Beards
with glasses
is a big one,
very
too.
powerful
for sure.
thing. Yeah, facial hair and glasses was very powerful.
There's so many like viral videos of men shaving beards who've had big beards for a long time, and they're like toddler freaking out.
Toddler,
because-
children,
yeah.
dogs are very, very much.
I love your list of toddlers, children, babies, humans,
Adult male
all
friends.
So I was going to use one that Max was actually present for, and it was with myself. So the first semester that I was in school at Indiana University, I decided after getting a terrible haircut at one of those like barber chains that you can go to, I was like, all right, cool, I'm not getting my haircut until I go back to Florida, because I have a barber that I saw for years on years. And at the same time, I was like, well, fuck it, if I'm not going to cut my hair, I'm not going to shave. And so I went through all of Rush with this big beard and a very, very moppy head of hair, and got my bid to the fraternity that Max and I were both in, and then went home for spring break before the rest of the spring semester. And I came back with a freshly cut head of hair and no beard. And our pledge leader for the first party that I was asked to work for thought I was faking being a pledge, because he did not recognize me, nor did half of the people from the
Wow.
fraternity recognize me, and thought I was faking that I had that I had pledged this fraternity. So it does happen. It is very, very weird when people say you are not who you are. That's a concerning mistaken identity is not a joke whatsoever. And I understand.
Toddlers, 18-year-old toddlers,
Well, gentlemen, first of all, Lauren, thank you so much for that in-flight question. If you have an in-flight question for the podcast, you can always submit those at tvpilotslicense.com. You can also shoot us a voicemail or leave us a text at 213-290-1713. But let's talk a little bit about the history of this show. This show had 4 seasons and 98 episodes. Remember, Disney has
Oh, wow.
those rules where they can't go over 100 episodes because then they have to pay more money, that fun thing.
I'm just surprised it had more than 65, because I feel like usually these sitcoms stop at 65,
Well,
right?
I'll get a little bit to why there were so many
Ooh.
episodes, because there was something behind it. There also was the recent 20th anniversary, which you can find on Disney Plus along with all of this show. There were 2 movies. So there was a 3D concert movie. That was the first one. And then there was Hannah Montana, the movie, which did very, very, very well in the box office. Boy, did that bring in the dollars. Let's talk a little.
Was that the finale? Did the movie serve as the finale
I
for the show?
believe so, but this
Okay.
was my first instance watching anything Hannah Montana, so
Sure,
I
that's fair.
can't be the definite on that. Let's talk a little bit about ratings. So, just to give some perspective, cable TV show for kids. We're talking about a smaller demographic of viewers, but this show's first season got 4.3 million viewers per episode, which is really good.
Wow.
Now, here's the fun fact. Normally, shows peak on their second season as far as viewership. This show grew every single season to 5.05 million viewers per episode by its final season.
Wow.
The
That's crazy.
largest episode viewership was the season finale for season 3, where it got up to 7.6 million, which is just like, that's bonkers as it is. Let's talk about why this show had so many episodes. So this show was valued for Disney to be a $1 billion property for them in 2000 by like 2008. They very clearly said like, hey, this show is worth $1 billion to us. We're not getting rid of it until we have to, sort of thing. And because of the Disney Channel rules, especially around they don't want to pay people after the 100th episode sort of thing, that stopped it. This show did have its controversies, including a very famous episode that was never released that talked about type 1 diabetes incorrectly. And then they had to go ahead, they had to apologize about it, and then they had to bring in consultants from the Breakthrough 1 Diabetes Fund to consult on filming a new version of that episode for season 3 where Oliver has type 1 diabetes, which is very funny. Max talked a little bit about the show's creators and how they came up with the show, but there was a lawsuit that lasted about 14 years where someone said that they submitted a pilot idea to Disney in 2001 that shared this exact premise, and they ended up losing that lawsuit in 2020 after years of legal battle for Disney. Also, want to talk about how there was conversation about there being a prequel series to the show that talked about how Miley Stewart became Hannah Montana. That would have starred Billy Ray Cyrus. It was his idea, and he was going to find the child actor who would play a young Miley Stewart, which I have a lot.
Yeah, that one checks
Wouldn't the
out.
character been like 10 or something?
Maybe
though?
9 or 10. Like there's a lot of question marks there.
I'm sorry, that's too young.
It does sound like something when Disney Plus first came out and they had like Girl Meets World come out as like one of the series to bring viewers in. That would be like that, where they were like, oh, we're doing Hannah Montana, the prequel. Like, congratulations. That could be a movie for sure. As far as merchandise, the show had a lot of books. It had a video game on Nintendo DS, which I bet was a banger of a game. And yeah, they had DVDs galore. I want to talk about nominations and let's talk about awards. The show had 53 nominations. That included 4 Primetime Emmy noms, and it won 31. Max and JW, I know that Malibu is famous for some great surfing, and this show was nominated for 9 Teen Choice Awards and won 8 of them. But I have a question for you that I want you to think about. This show, in 2011, Miley Cyrus was nominated for Choice TV Actress in a Comedy. Who did she lose to?
Say the year.
2011. And I'll give you a couple of clues, just because that's definitely a vague thing to say. So one thing was that this was not the only Disney show or kid show where there was a nominee, and there was only one major primetime comedy that was included in this bunch of 5 nominations.
Huh.
Okay, so there's one major primetime one in here.
There's only one in 2011. So
I'm gonna say she lost to Zooey Deschanel for New Girl.
okay, and JW.
Oh, yeah. That's my brain was going like, what's a really like quote unquote well-made sitcom that she could have lost to, and it's just funny because of course she did. Like New Girl. Oh man.
What if I told you?
I'm gonna go even wilder. I bet it's I bet it was like The Good Wife. I want it to be like
JW's going with the primetime Emmy where it's just like there's drama and there's comedy. There's no in between.
They're just
It's either Miley Cyrus or Juliana Margulies. There's no in between.
Well, the answer is these are the people who were nominated. Miranda Cosgrove for iCarly, Kaylee Cuoco for The Big Bang Theory, Miley Cyrus for Hannah Montana, Demi Lovato for Sunny with a Chance, and the winner, Selena Gomez for Wizards of Waverly Place. What I also find so funny is there's so many kid shows for the TV Comedy Actress Award, but for the Actor Award, it's Glee, Modern Family, The Office, and Big Bang Theory. It's just all primetime network, which is like, I could just do an episode of this show just talking about that and what are the demographics of the voting as well.
Can you imagine being Haley Cuoco there and she's like, I'm sitting with all the other nominees, and she's like, well, these are kids.
I can't drink with any of you like at this point in time.
I like the way you emphasize that, broke up into two syllables. Like, and yes, the Teen Choice Actor goes to.
You know what? I'm having a great time. But yeah, as that is the awards and that is the history of the show. But before we take this flight to a land, I have two questions for each of you gentlemen. And I think I know at least the first answer, but I'm curious about the second. The first is, based off the pilot and the pilot alone, are you watching more Hannah Montana and learning more about Miley Stewart and her family? And the second question is, we talked a lot about the idea of this show leaning into its music, but also a show for kids. And we've gone away, we've strayed from that era of there being these very closely related things where we can have an album or have radio singles that seem to be like stuck between 2006 and 2015. Do you want TV like that again? And JW, as our guest, I'm going to let you start us off.
I will not watch one more second of this. I don't need it. Not one part of me wants to follow this journey. I don't even know what the journey could be. That's one of the things about this pilot that does legitimately frustrate me, is I'm not sure what other episodes would look like.
Sure.
Because it just seems like all of her problems were solved. You know, I needed something else from this. And again, it does have good comedic moments in it. I would be fascinated to watch you said the third season was like, so it got better. I would be interested to like dip into one third season episode and just see what the landscape did for this show. And then in terms of those kind of shows, there was something fascinating. I don't know if either of you saw Smile 2.
Yeah.
I'm not the first or the last person who's going to compare Hannah Montana to Smile 2, but they released, because that's about a pop star, they released a real huge concept album that was like, what if this pop star actually made an album? And I thought that was a really cool tie-in. And I think you absolutely can do another show about a pop star of whatever age and do a really good tie-in album. And I think that, you know, we basically don't do the Disney Channel Nickelodeon factory anymore, which is probably for the best if you've watched those documentaries. But they wanted every single one of them to be a sitcom star and a pop icon. I think you can do that with maybe in a conceptual way with a more adult sitcom where someone is like a musician, right? I always wish that Friends had released an album of just Phoebe's songs.
Sure.
Because they put her songs sometimes as little bonus tracks onto their soundtracks, but why not just release a Lisa Kudrow album? I think that's a really fun tie-in if you have a musically inclined character. So I think they could do that, and that would be a cool tie-in because, again, it works for some of the specialty movies and stuff. But yeah.
Max, what are you thinking?
So saying this just based on pilot and structure and not as a 34-year-old, yes, I do think this pilot works, and I think it's effective at making you want to watch more. I like that at the end of the day, it comes back to the relationship between its protagonist and her best friend. I think that they do set up for kind of fun fish out of water, and like, how is she going to keep this secret? What scenarios could you put her in? And I think it's a perfectly innocent, innocuous, like cute teen show that is effective in its mission statement. For your second question, we had a massive example of this last year with K-pop Demon Hunters, where you had this movie that had a Billboard #1 for several weeks, won multiple Oscars, and even post Oscars is doing like McDonald's tie-ins, and like you're seeing the cast live performing these songs. Yes, there is absolutely a way to do it. I think this has been effective since like the Archie cartoon in the 60s, and is going to continue to be effective. If the songs are good, you could absolutely do it. It's just like, do you have the good songs? Is it K-pop Demon Hunters, or is it M. Night Shyamalan's daughter in that movie Trap? Like, which version are we getting here?
Oh, that's an interesting... Yeah, that movie was interesting because you could really tell that they were like, we could release a whole CD of this music too. But you were like, but the music's not that great.
Yeah.
Why would I want to listen to this again?
For myself, I think if I was 11 watching this, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is great. I think if this was a show just about Lily, right? Emily Osment's character, and like we see it from her perspective, I might even be a little bit more interested. I think that might be a very fun twist on this. But as you know, a man in his 30s, this just I'm not watching a single second more of this. I'll listen to the music though, very, very gladly and very, very proudly. That being said, more as far as music based or shows that are accompanied by soundtracks that you can purchase, I'm a big fan of it. Another example that I'll give, all three of us gave different examples. I'm gonna give the most recent A24 movie, Mother Mary, that just came out with the soundtrack that includes Jack Antonoff, Charlie XCX, FKA Twigs. Like, the music from that is already making its way to my Spotify, and I'm like, yep, I'm gonna go and see the movie based off of the soundtrack and the soundtrack alone, like, because I'm having a great time. And oh, Anne Hathaway happens to be in it. Cool, great, like, I'll be there seated. That being said, yeah, I'll be very interested, because I think we went through a period of time where we had Glee fatigue, you know, where we were just like, I can't anymore. I can't with shows that sing. Glee went into such a weird place, but now they're casting for the Glee reboot, you two, and that's terrifying to me. But maybe it's because they finally realized that we've rested from that fatigue and we are fully
Why do they
back.
want to curse another generation of actors?
You know what?
Why do they want to curse?
Because the curse must
cast?
find a new host, JW. The curse must find a new host.
I'm just excited to see Leah Michelle doing chess on TV, because boy, Max, we were talking, that show is fucking bonkers, and we need to release that plot to the world.
You know what? You mentioned, Geoff, wanting to maybe see this from Emily Osment's character's perspective. I realized I haven't seen another one of this, and she's been in so many sitcoms since, where she's a lead. Young Sheldon, Georgia Mandy's First Marriage, and Young and Hungry, which I've seen some clips of, especially the Ashley Tisdale parts, who apparently just plays a tattooed lesbian, and I want to know more. But I'm like, I want to see more of her, because she's clearly extremely good at sitcom-style acting, because she stays booked. She couldn't even do the reunion because she was like, I'm sorry, I'm filming a TV show.
Yeah, like, that's literally what I left this show with, was like, Emily Osment was so talented at this age, and like, that might actually get me to maybe watch another minute of this show just to see her killing it on screen. And we have seen how talented she is in years following, and that is always so much fun. Well, gentlemen, that is our flight. But before we go, first of all, JW, thank you so much for joining us on this flight, joining us on this episode. If people want to find you, where should they be looking if you would like to be found?
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow me on Instagram at JW_Crump. It's a lot of repost of the stuff that I post on TikTok. So if you want to follow me on TikTok and just remove that middle manager, you can find me at JW Crump Writer. I answer a lot of questions about TV writing and production that people send me, as well as just goofs. Just goofs, you know, like you do, just little goofs. And yeah, like you mentioned at the top, I am a card and board game designer, and I am releasing this year, Gay Chicken, which is a like pub style 20-minute 3 to 10 player card game. We've done a lot of play tests. I'll be at Gen Con this year as a special guest, which, if you don't know, is the biggest boarding card game thing. I'm very fortunate to be a guest on one of their hour-long shows as like a guest comedian. And I'll be there just kind of like showing my wares, being like, please like this thing I made. And I should shout out my talented illustrated partner, Patrick Mahoney, because in a world where so many, I think, game designers want to do some AI slop for their prototypes, I wanted to find a real illustrator who was as passionate about games as I was. And Patrick's definitely that.
Well, JW, thank you again. Max, where can folks find you?
JW, there is no one I would rather talk about fictional pop acts with than you on this podcast. So thank you for talking about more fictitious pop music with us. You can find me forcing Geoff to watch High School Musical for the first time and on all things social media at Maxwell Sing.
And you can find me moisturizing exclusively with ketchup. But if you're looking for me on social media, you can find me at RunJeffRun. If you're looking for the TV Pilot's License, you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also watch our smiling faces on YouTube. And thank you for liking, subscribing, and leaving those comments. It does really help us as we continue this journey. With that said, if you have an in-flight question or suggestion for our next episode, you can submit those at tvpilotslicense.com or 213-290-1713. Make sure to watch out for some of the sneak previews of stuff that we have coming up. But with the plane landed and the seatbelt sign off, we look forward to flying the bright skies of the TV world with you again soon. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies and your fingers on the dial.
You got the best of both worlds.
JW, thank